Hello, you. Welcome back to the channel. I wanted to give you an intro to this video because today's interview with director Kirstin Johnson of Dick Johnson is Dead is really a journey and it's super emotional. So I wanted to let you know just a little bit about it before we start. This documentary is about her father, Dick, who is a former mental health care professional who's retired and is suffering from dementia. And the documentary is filled with all of these amazing interviews, these really kind of wonderful expressions of life and what he thinks heaven might be and what she thinks it could involve. But it also involves Dick's death, like in fantastical fake scenarios. And since life right now is a lot of grief, grief over losing loved ones, grief over loss of what we once knew, I just wanted to make sure that you had all the information so you knew whether or not you wanted to continue. I would encourage you, when you're ready, to watch both the interview and the documentary. I found it absolutely incredible. And I was crying a lot. I cry in the interview. I'm crying like when the camera's not rolling. And for those of you who are able to stick around and interested, please let me know in the comments what you think. And I'm not going to say that I hope you enjoy all of this, but I do hope that you get something out of it and that it moves you as much as it moved me. All right, here's a hug. Let me give you a hug. Hug. Um,
Okay.
and I just wanted to let you know that I'm coming fully prepared.
Oh, love it. Love it.
I the minute that I saw like the description of Dick Johnson is Dead, I was like, I gotta see this. I just had absolutely no idea how deeply moving and powerful I would find it. I felt
Oh,
like I felt like simultaneously I was like, of course, this is the email that ended up in my inbox, and it was exactly the thing that I needed to see, that I wanted to talk to Kirstin about. And also, though, to be perfectly honest, I was
please.
watching the film and I just went, what have I done? I, 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 I just am floored by the humanity in this movie and by your creative mind that would, I mean, from my perspective, that would use this documentary as this incredibly healing journey to, attempt. I mean, and please tell me if I've got this right. I saw the movie as a way to attempt healing, but a way to process all of your feelings around your father aging and time passing. I mean, I hope I'm not talking out of turn.
You're still not talking out of turn. I will just say I'm a little more nervy than you even would think. I was actually making it so that he'll stay alive forever. Like that was actually my mission. Which I know is a doomed mission, but I embraced it, and I like I want to be defiant to death and dementia. Like that was also my mission. Is there a reason that it does it connect to something in your own life like that? Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah. It's this is something that I've become aware of actually just like within the past, well, in 2020 actually. Um, my mom passed in January,
Oof.
and yeah, that was, I feel like I'm trying to put on a brave face,
Yeah,
but
you don't have to with me.
that's why I brought these. What my dad has experienced and what we've experienced with him since that. So I mean, it's such a parallel journey to what you describe in the film, and also to what so many people go through.
Yeah.
Um, I don't understand dementia, and I don't understand elder care, and you have that wonderful nurse that you feature in the documentary
Marta.
who has like she knows what she's doing. She's got that knowledge and that compassion. And I was thinking, my God, if I could come back as anybody, I
Mm.
would want it to be her.
Oh, I'll tell her that. That will mean so much to her. Oh my God, she'll be so touched by that.
What a
What a human, right? What a human. She's an amazing human. What was your mom's name?
Margaret.
Margaret. Oh, I'm just so, damn it. Damn it. We didn't want her to die, like, and it is, I do think, like, now, like, it's like one, like, until one of your parents dies, if you have two parents, like, until that happens, like, you have no idea. You just don't get it. And then once it happens, you're like, oh, are you kidding me? This is so full on.
Yeah.
And
And similarly to your experience as well, like your mother battling Alzheimer's. My mom didn't have Alzheimer's, but it was just such a slow progression. And slow progression, just a descent, just a, decline of health. And even that doesn't prepare you, and it's broadcast on your father's face in this film. What a long, sad journey that is.
really,
And your dad, like, what really struck me is
mm,
I just feel like he seems like the person that just smiles through the pain.
yeah.
He has this beautiful smile, and he has such a great sense of humor, and he's such an affable person, and I love the way that he plays with children. And I love the psychiatrist mind inside of him that is like so reasonable and like sees the
Yes,
wheels turning. um
totally.
and I is there something that you learned about your dad, or even about like your reaction to him in the process of making like such an emotionally intense movie?
Well, I feel like, I mean, I feel like I've been learning from my dad my entire life, right? But certainly, with my mother's dementia, his capacity to not take it, to, like, I think some people, when their partner changes or declines, they're angry at them, like, really angry at them. Sort of, how dare you? How dare you abandon me? How dare you decline? How dare you die? Right? Which is, like, I think in a certain way, my father didn't do that with my mother, right? Like, he accepted that she had a disease, and he supported her and took care of her and loved her and wasn't angry with her. um, Making this film in a certain way, like, I think enabled both of us to get angry, like, with death and dementia. Like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, we're not doing this again. Like, we, like, rage at death, like, um so the, like, to have to have new kinds of, to allow different emotions. I think there are some ways in which, like, because my father as a psychiatrist learned to listen to insanity, literal insanity, and be not perturbed by it, like, hear really crazy, really messed up stuff, and be like, okay, I'll see you next Monday at 3, right? Like, to have that kind of response, um in some ways, like, it's a way of, like, everything's going to be okay, everything's going to be okay, everything's going to be okay. And, like, everything is not okay. Like, the sort of, like, the rage and the outrage that there exists at this moment in history, of, like, there's so much that's not okay right now, but there's also, like, so much that's never been okay, you know and that rage and that outrage, like, in some ways, like, getting it to direct it at death and at dementia in this movie, like, allowed, I think, both for me and my father, a new, just like, this is messed up, like, and to be complicit in some of that messed up stuff, like, to purposefully try to do a scene in which I, like, try to get the viewer to believe my dad is really dead. Like, that's messed up. Like,
It is.
it is messed up,
I'm
and
like, I love I loved seeing him. And
Yeah.
I loved getting to know it's funny because it's like this is the best case scenario for film is that I feel like I have a relationship to a certain extent with both your dad and with you in walking through this really murky, horrible thing. And I
Yeah.
feel like I want to call you like a death pioneer because
Nice.
like because like what you did with this film is so it's so like not American culture,
Yeah.
and I was just watching it the whole time, but seeing especially the dichotomy of I was seeing especially the dichotomy of uh the sadness of the real life but also the beauty that comes with life. Like you brought that out as well. It's not even a question. I just want to tell you you did that.
Yeah, and you just gave me a new name. You just gave me Death Pioneer. I'm like, yeah, I was on with Yancey Ford and I called him a master of death, but now I'm gonna let him know we're both death pioneers.
And that it's I wondered if like when you're making this and you're coming at it from a filmmaking perspective of like visually what are we going to show heaven being like, did that make you examine your own vision of heaven? Like what does your heaven look like to you?
Right. Well, it definitely like when I sort of thought about like who was going to be there. I mean, one thing is like, I'm trying to communicate to the audience. I'm trying to include you, like the you who I do not yet know, the you who right there, like, with the color in your life, like you and me both needed some more color in this movie. And certainly Heaven was just like, please give us some color. Like, I can't take any more like light blue shirt and khaki pants. Um, and but when I was thinking about like who's going to be there, I was thinking about all these people who, for me, they manifest this way of like transforming pain by their creativity into something that like humans wish to engage with. So, like Frida Kahlo, Frederick Douglass, like Billie Holiday, Freud, it's all like, how do we transform pain? How do we like work with it and turn it into something else? Buster Keaton, right? Like, and so trying to find the people who would be there, like sort of that, like your imaginary dinner party at heaven, was just like, that was such a fun task for me. And then it was like hilarious because I had, this young crew and all these people were just like, I don't recognize any of those people, and be like, what? Like, you don't know who Freud is? Like, what?
Oh no.
That was great. That was a great
I
moment.
I imagine that there had I imagine that there had I mean just like there's with death, I imagine there had to be lows too. Like did you have a moment where the full force of what you were trying to do just hit you like at the end of a long day?
Um, in like September of this last year, I really, really felt like I had failed to capture my father's essence, like his sort of
Mm.
ineffable spirit, and that the dementia had already taken so much of him that like I had blown it. I had started too late. So I felt that through much of the process, and then everyone was sort of telling me that I was not revealing, like I had thrown him under the bus, but I hadn't thrown myself under the bus. I was in the middle of trying to write voiceover I didn't really want to write. And my dad, who had not been a wanderer at all, started like getting up in the middle of the night and saying there's a patient downstairs and wanting to leave the house. And suddenly I just wasn't sleeping anymore. And I just was like having, like, I just had a heartache, like my heart just like hurt, and I could like feel it in my arm and in my throat, and I was like having irregular heartbeat, and I was like, oh my god, I'm gonna have a heart attack, like this movie's gonna kill me, like, you know what I mean? Like I really had a moment in September where I was just like, this movie amounts to nothing, I'm gonna kill myself making it, like I can't take care of my dad who's like wandering. And just the feeling that you have when someone you love dies, like And it's like you couldn't stop Margaret from dying. Like, you love her like beyond the beyond, and you can't stop her from dying. And it's like that feeling
Yep.
I had during the making of this film.
Oof.
And having experienced it before with the loss of my mom, I was like, like Joan Didion's The Year of Magical Thinking. It's like, how did she fucking make that book?
Yeah.
Like, how did she do that? In the midst of because you're basically in a state of shock, right? Like, it's a
Right.
state of shock you're still in. Like, someone pulled the rug out from underneath the planet. Like, that's what I felt when my mom died. Just like someone just like took the rug out from underneath the planet. And so to sort of aspire to translate like in a form that is meaningful to other people, like the ways people have done that. Like, how did Frederick Douglass like go into his little hut and like remember what it was like to be enslaved and like translate that? Like, that people have done that is like, okay, all right, I'll try that, like, as a way to get out of bed in the morning. Because like, but really, like,
Yeah, well,
yeah,
it's a huge, I mean, I would imagine it felt like a huge responsibility. It's obviously a gigantic undertaking, but I think, I mean, I think that's why we're all doing all of these things. It's
that's
like
right.
you put a certain kind of person puts themselves through that experience, because on the other side lies this amazing gift to humanity, this understanding. And I feel like in every project, there's that point where you just think it's like a nightmare and that you did it all wrong. Cause I just think of like back from my theater days, like the dress rehearsal or the tech rehearsal is always like a mess. And you're like, I can't believe we've worked this long and it's going to be so bad. And it seems like it happens every time. And then when you
It
get,
does. I know, but sometimes it is really bad. The challenge, right? Like, even the show is really bad. Like, I mean, that's the
oh,
fear
yeah.
that we're all grappling with, right?
Yeah, because I mean, we're putting ourselves out there as artists, and like, yeah, sometimes we fail, certainly. But I mean, no, the good news is that you didn't, because
I had my
but
father's
even
life in my hands.
God, well, but even the failure is noteworthy for a certain reason,
Right.
and when it exists. And I think I'll tell you the reason that I think you succeeded. There's one scene before he has moved away from his home and in with you in New York, and you're talking about selling the car. And the way that I saw the scene, you were kind of taking it easy on him and telling him, well, you're moving to New York, we're selling the car. It has absolutely nothing to do with the fact that you're an unsafe driver. We're not going to mention that part. It was very
That's right.
compassionate.
Yeah.
Okay. And he got emotional and he just said, this is how I think your mom felt when we had to put her in the home. And I was like, I paused it. I couldn't, just the weight of that, and the knowing that he had, and he's still with a little grin on his face, like still putting on a brave face for you. To me, that encapsulates this experience, is like him being aware of what's going on while still being somewhat out of control of his own mind. And it's like, then you've got a whole dance sequence, and it's like, was there a movie ever made for me that was more perfect than this? Like, just amazing. And
I made it for you.
I'm very grateful. I'm very grateful because I don't tell people this, but for years I recorded every phone conversation with my mom,
Mm.
and I never told her. I never told her. And I have tons and tons and tons of these audio files of us just talking. And by the time that I captured them, I think the situation was similar. I don't feel like I
Yeah,
really captured her.
right.
I haven't been able to listen to them yet, but projects like yours make me think like there is healing, there is something on the other side.
Yes. Oh my God, yes. And I couldn't look at that footage I'd filmed of my mother for like 9 years. Like I could it's gonna take you a while, but oh my God, one of these days you're just gonna be like, oh, I have her. Like
And
like I mean, I'm so happy for you that you have that. I'm so happy for you have that. That's so
thanks.
beautiful. Yeah.
I'm happy that I, probably broke a couple of federal laws.
Yeah, well, you weren't talking to
Suck
Monica
it.
Lewinsky, so it's okay.
I also wanted to talk about whether or not there was like a stunt idea that you trashed, because in the movie you've got a stunt double for him, and he is a talented dude. I
Yeah.
just was in horror this whole time. You're fake killing your dad. But was there an idea that you got rid of?
I really wanted to put my dad out on an ice floe, for real. And I was really sad I didn't get to do that. I also wanted to like leave him on a desert island, like, yeah,
Really a good one.
I know. I know.
Has your like what did dad think of the film? Have you shown it to him?
Oh, he's seen it hundreds of times.
Hundreds. Great. Okay,
Yeah.
because I mean
Yeah.
it's screened. And did he
He's
have a surprising?
watched it over and over throughout the process. Watched many cuts. He's given ideas about editing. We watched it with Marta, and then I filmed Marta after we watched it. That's the footage that's in the film. Like, it was sort of being made and unmade and remade all the time.
It's amazing. And I mean the like the clarity that comes from seeing it a million different moments. Can you, when you have rewatched it all these times alongside everyone that's in it, is there something in it that just like hits you in a very hard way that might be different than it was before?
I mean, I haven't watched it since it premiered at Sundance, and it showed at True Falls. So I haven't watched it since the pandemic. And
Oof.
I think, like your footage with your mom, like, I just think we're all in this collective period of grief and anticipatory grief and unspoken grief. And, like, a million people have died that we haven't mourned. And so I'm sure that I will understand it differently, feel it differently. And now my father is in a facility, and like the sort of image of him that I've now seen of like inside the door wanting me to take him with him, and him staying inside there, like I knew I would be in this place someday where it would be like it would already be different from what the movie is, and I'm already here. So yeah, I mean, I just think every time I watch this film, it's gonna feel different, but this time it's gonna be a big one. Like, it's gonna be the, March to September not having watched it. So I guess I'll watch it at the premiere. I guess I'm gonna do that and see what it does to me. Yeah. And just imagine all the people in the world who are watching it at the same time.
Right. And it's, bring these guys, because our
I've
art
heard
is
of
like
those.
a,
What
yeah,
is that
right.
strange object?
It's like it's a living, breathing thing. And I'm always surprised that that's why I've always really despised personally being labeled as a film critic, because I believe that my response to film is so subjective that while I do my best to be fair, my watching of the movie totally changes over
Yeah,
time. And
yeah,
certainly if I had seen this movie last year, I would have watched it very differently than I did recently.
that's right.
And so it's like but that's the beauty of it, is that it's always
Absolutely.
you
It's
know.
always changing, and we are always changing, and our capacity to see new things in it is always changing. And that's, I mean, that is what is like the beauty of cinema and of being human, right? Like, you just know new things, and you know, it's going to be different with your dad in so many ways. Like, what you know now that you know what death is, it's like, it's just, you take it all means different things.
Exactly. And with you being like such a documentary badass,
Yes.
do you go back and
And a
watch?
death pioneer also.
Yeah,
Never
these are your
mind that.
titles.
Yeah.
Do you watch all your any of your other stuff that you've shot, or the things that you've done?
You know, usually I return to things, you know, I'm there for a premiere. Maybe, you know, I watch them once at a film festival or when it screens. But certainly the experience of making Camera Person meant that I returned to the footage. And in a couple of cases, I returned to the films. Like Derrida, like, blew my mind. I was like, oh, this is the same film I've been making my entire career. Like there's so much in Derrida that speaks to all of the questions I'm so deeply interested in. And I now have a completely different perspective on it. So I haven't rewatched many of the things that I've done. But there are a couple of them that are like, oh wow, yeah, that's very interesting to revisit that. And Derrida is one of them.
I It turns out that, as I was digging through your filmography, so much of what you've been involved in is just like it keeps aging. I don't want to say well, since some of the topics can be rather disturbing, but I mean
Right.
it's that they continue to be so thought provoking, and uh, this one certainly it felt really cathartic to me. So thank you.
Oh, cathartic, I think, is a good word. I'm interested in catharsis, and I'm so glad that this movie, like, that you could watch it in your like year of magical thinking, you know, like, because I don't think it's a given that everyone, like, I know some people will have to protect themselves against this film, like, and I have respect for that, and also know that some people will see it and not yet understand it. You know, I think that until you've lost a parent or until you've encountered dementia, there'll be parts of it that just won't quite make sense to you. um all of that I accept, and I hope that the world continues, and I think that we pull ourselves back from this edge so that we can keep watching all these movies into the future and watch them, in slightly more pleasant circumstances later.
And the idea that I'll leave you with is that as times are so challenging, I'm going to keep remembering the lesson of humanizing people that I don't even know, like, your father that I met, and I think of him now as this marvelous man that like wears a Homer J. Simpson tie like it's nobody's business. And I
That's right. Thanks for
and
paying attention.
well,
Give me one Margaret detail that I can
oh
keep
my
with me,
God.
the way, just like one thing, that one outfit, or yeah.
She, by the way, you've almost practically met her because I am so much like her. But my favorite thing that she ever said, she was the queen of one-liners that she didn't know were hilarious. And the best one is she said, "Oh, I don't know what you people are talking about. I've never been in a car accident except for that thing with the brick wall."
All right. Margaret is now with me forever.
There she is. It's an honor. Thank you so
I love
much.
it. So great to talk to you. All right. Big hug. Bye.